So have you been able to track anything about the decision-making process of our customers? One of the things we talk about in the class that's really important is like understanding the process that customers go through, right? Like what is the decision-making process that they go through? And there's a few different ways you can answer that. One is, we talk about, is it like emotional? Is it cognitive? And then just the actual kind of like buying process in itself type of thing. High involvement, low involvement. What do you think based on the information you've seen?
So I think I can't say that I've seen a lot. However, there are certain things that we've noticed, or at least that I've noticed. For example, a month ago, we got the stimulus check from the government, or I should say most people got the stimulus check on that one specific day. I think it was the 15th of April. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's a random day in the middle of the week, and we're getting tons and tons of sales. So in that aspect of things, it's something I definitely put a note in the file, hey, this is the day we got the stimulus check. But it's also on top of that showing, like people got the money and they didn't necessarily need it. Let's buy. The other thing that one of the pieces of the report that we get from Amazon is like the buy box of, okay, so how many people go into the buy box and how many people actually end up buying it? And we do have a very large percentage. Very rarely do we see people like canceling that out. The other thing too that you notice is of all the times that we see cancellations, I would say the ones that are the most likely are the ones that are kind of either in the middle of the night that someone bought it on a whim, like a splurge purchase, and therefore they didn't really like think, okay, this is something that I actually need. Where in the middle of the night, it seemed like a great idea. Those are kind of the things, like I said, at this point, I don't have a lot of insight into it, but some of the things that I've noticed at this point in time.
So it's funny how when you say that it's like customers that buy it as an emotional, low involvement buy often cancel because they come back to regret it. And obviously part of it is because our products are slightly more expensive. They're not that cheap, where, we're also somewhat of a no-name brand. And so the combination of those two, where if someone like researches it and actually puts time and energy into it and think about it, they have a higher chance of following through with it and then potentially buying it again and again. It is funny how like we're the emotional buys, like worst nightmare. Like, no, like, right? That you just said that. I actually didn't realize that, but that kind of makes me sad a little bit. Do you think there's sort of like what do you think the frequency is, a number of the customers? Like frequency, like how often do they purchase our products? How many of them are rebuys? Because as you know, skincare is a different kind of product. It's a product that you buy. There's lifetime customers, right? That's a huge thing, and that unfortunate for that. Ads, as you know, are so expensive compared to other categories. It's ridiculous how much we have to spend for ads. But we can get a customer who buys every month for potentially years. Which everyone listening to this also has their products that are, lotions or creams that they've used, whether you're a man or woman, that doesn't make a difference. Use the same one forever.
Right. It's what we become comfortable with, and especially people that have sensitive skin, like all of a sudden, like for example, like I have bad skin and I know that this product is going to work well on my skin and not make me break out. I'm going to stick with. One of the things I think it is interesting because you see some people, so actually I'll step back for a second. So part of Amazon is they have a program where you can sign up and it's an auto refill. And by doing that, we have a discount. I think it's 15% at this point if you sign up for the auto refill. So it's something that we didn't really track right away in the beginning, but it's something we're tracking now to see if we can get more and more, because then that's going to be your base, kind of your base sales every month, or maybe it's every other month. One of the things that I've kind of noticed as I'm looking through the analytics is that we see more of a every other month rather than an every month. And I would assume that's just because the products themselves last a little bit longer than a month for most people. Not all people, but most people, it's kind of a, hey, I'm going to use this once a day and then it will last me 2 months. And then when that's up, then I'll buy the next one. So that's kind of what I would say is the frequency for most is probably more like a 2-month thing. Rather than the every month. With that being said, something that we've started to do to try to pick that up is we're tracking every week as to, okay, so if we've sold, let's say 20 products this week, how many of those were repeat buys and how many of them were repeat buys and they're not on the auto refill. So I would then highlight those individuals and send it to you, and then you would then reach out to that individual and say, hey, you know, I mean, looks like you do like our product and you want to continue using it. Here's a great way for you to save 15%, and don't even have to go onto Amazon and like rebuy it every month when you run out. It's just an automatic thing. And we've seen that it has been successful.
Do you think there's anything that we're like kind of get to the end here, just a couple questions left. Do you think there's anything that were like unmet needs of our customers at this point that you think like we should think about tweaking, or I guess tweaking is not the right word, right? Like investigating more to see if like there's something in this area that customers seem unhappy with?
Oh, definitely. I think there's always room to improve of how your product is or what we're doing. And that's kind of where the analytics come into play of, you mean like looking at it and saying, okay, so you mean there, let's say we have a 10% conversion rate. Well, we want to be higher than that. We want to get to 20%. So kind of what is it that we're not seeing? Is it something that's on the page itself? Is it something that, I mean, we're not putting our ads in the right place? Or is it our prices too high, or is it too low? And that's kind of where the analytics come in, of the factor of, let's try this, let's give it some time, see if it works. If all of a sudden we're seeing a higher conversion rate, then it obviously is working. If we're not seeing a change or it's going down, it makes no difference whatsoever. And an example of that, not that long ago, we had a product that we were not, last fall we were selling, all of a sudden we're not selling it. So we lowered it, didn't see anything, lowered it again, and all of a sudden we still don't see anything. And so it's kind of like, okay, so what's happening?
And we raised it and we got more sales.
Exactly. We kind of realized, it was one of those things of, sometimes you can go too low with the price and you have to bring it back up, because people a lot of times won't buy the product that's $5. They want to buy something that's $10. So that's something that we definitely are learning as we go, but that was kind of an important lesson. And like I said, it's going to be a continual, and it will be always something. You're always going to find something that's unmet, because you're constantly wanting to grow, right? The market is so large that there's always more to take for Catherine Jen.
Last question to wrap it up. You kind of have a unique path of getting to the marketing analytics world. Is there any advice you would give to all the students that are listening to this about, you're kind of the perfect example of, you studied the finance side forever and still somewhat do, and now you're dabbling into the marketing side, even though kind of advice to those people that are like on the fence, like, should I go finance, should I go corporate finance, should I go marketing analytics side, coming from a math person?
So I'd say there's two pieces of that. So one, I would say if there's any marketing research classes that are offered and you still have time to take them or have room, I would definitely take them to see, hey, is this something of interest to you? Because like I told you in the very beginning, that was something that sparked an interest for me. The other thing that someone had recommended to me, and actually it was very beneficial once I graduated college, and you wouldn't even have to, I definitely probably wouldn't wait till you graduate college, was to do informational interviews. So going to different marketing research firms, or actually you can really go to any company. Any company is going to have data analytics, especially these days, like of all different departments and so forth. And see if you can just talk to them, see what they do on a day-to-day basis. Is that something of interest to you? And it also not only is going to give you the information that what they're doing, but it also can get you a foot in the door of, hey, since you're here, we do have this opportunity for a potential, internship or an entry-level position or whatever it might be. But I think that would be the two things that I would recommend, is start with any classes that are available. And then on top of that, I would just do those informational interviews, because that way you're really talking to the people that are doing the actual job, and they will tell you, this is what I do. I sit in my cube all day, every day. Now, I love that, but for somebody else, that might be the worst job in the world. That's what it is I mean, figuring things out and learning as you go. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.